welcome to the November small mentoring session for the Scottish courses here at the Institute of International Genealogical Studies. And you can find us at genealogicalstudies.com. My name is Morag Piers and I'm the Director of Scottish Studies. And what we're going to do today is we're going to take a brief run through Scottish festive traditions, what we do in Scotland at Christmas and New Year. And there is actually a link to genealogy, which I'll talk about as we go along. I'd be really interested to hear if there's anything different to the way that you guys do things in your own country, or any traditions that you find that you have in common with what we do in Scotland. Okay, so the first thing I need to talk about is what we actually call this season. I know in other parts of the world you refer to it as the holidays. In Scotland, it's very much Christmas and New Year. If you were to say to somebody in Scotland, what are you doing for the holidays? They would think that you meant, where are you going for your summer holiday? Which you guys in North America at least call vacation. That's what we call holidays. So we definitely talk about Christmas and New Year. Some people talk about the festive season or the end of the year, or that kind of thing. But it is very much Christmas and New Year. And running up to Christmas and New Year, we have Advent, and this is the period that we're in now. And it starts 4 Sundays before the 25th of December, and people start the big build up into Christmas. And certainly during my lifetime, Christmas has morphed into a whole December festival. People have already got their Christmas trees up. They've already got their lights out. There's already Christmas music playing in the shops. It's all full on Christmas, and it will be right through till the 25th of December. So most people are starting around the 1st of December doing Christmassy things, all building up to the 25th of December, the big day. And there's quite a lot of people who will actually start removing Christmas decorations and that kind of thing between that period between Christmas and New Year, where everything kind of falls a bit flat. And they want to sort of New Year start with a fresh house, fresh decorations, all that kind of thing. So Advent, and this is a religious thing marking kind of the build up to that first, the 25th of December and the birth of Jesus. So how do we mark Advent calendars? Advent, sorry, excuse me. So we mark them with Advent calendars, and I'm sure most other countries have this too. Now, when I was a little girl, my Advent calendar looked like the one on the left. It was paper, it was flat, and the biggest excitement you got was opening the door to find out whether you got a reindeer or a robin or perhaps a bell behind the door, and that was the height of excitement all the way through the Christmas period. Whereas now, I don't think any kid in 2025 would be impressed with a card where you open the door to see what the picture was. So most of them get chocolate, and my kids get chocolate too. And this is the kind of calendar you can see on the right, and it looks the same, except every time when you open the door, you get a little chocolate shape, which is usually in the shape of a snowman or a Santa or something Christmassy related. And that has changed over the decades, and advent calendars are getting increasingly more sophisticated. You can have cheese advent calendars, gin advent calendars, coffee pod advent calendars, you name it, you can get it for advent calendars. And they're not just for kids. Obviously, the gin ones aren't for kids, so adults are partaking in advent calendars too. And what else is happening during this period in the build up to Christmas? So kids will put on nativity plays at school or at church or at Sunday school. You know, the little boys will get dressed up as shepherds in their pajamas and dressing gowns with one of their mum's towels on their heads. The little girls will be angels in white dresses and tinsel and glitter. There might be a carol service at your local church or at school. But the very British thing that most British people attend during Christmas, the run up to Christmas, is a pantomime. And this is a kind of performance which is exclusively British and Irish. I don't think it exists in other parts of the world. And it's quite strange from a British perspective, from an international perspective, really. So, what is a pantomime? So, a pantomime is a theatre performance, which usually takes place in December, starting around now, running to the first week in January. And it's child friendly and adult friendly. It's a family entertainment, and it's usually the retelling of a known fairy tale. So these two are Cinderella. We all know the story to Cinderella and Aladdin. And again, we all know the story of Aladdin. But what a pantomime will do is there's lots of audience participation, there's lots of jokes. So if you go to see the theatre, the performance in Glasgow, they'll be telling jokes about local celebrities, local politicians, poking fun at people from certain areas of the city who are particularly thought to be affluent or not affluent. There's a lot of bad jokes. There's audience participation. Some of the classic pantomime things is the audience are encouraged to shout, "He's behind you" when the baddie comes on screen. They boo the baddie that comes on. They cheer for the goodies. They shout, "Oh yes, no, he isn't. Oh yes, he is. Oh no, he isn't." All that kind of thing. Very traditional type pantomime. You know exactly what you're going to get when you go to a pantomime. But it's all good, clean fun. Kids love it. And that is one of the traditional things to do in the build up to Christmas. I think my kids are going this year, and the big pantomime which is on in Glasgow is The Little Mermaid, which is just the retelling of the classic story. The one other thing which is a bit strange is you'll see on the picture, especially on both of them, you've got men, oh, very obviously men dressed as women, and this is the pantomime dame. And this is the old woman in the story, whether it's, it'll be the wicked stepmother in Cinderella, it'll be Aladdin's mother in Aladdin, traditionally played by a man, completely over the top costumes, and that is kind of the figure of fun um for the pantomime. So that's a good laugh, and most people will do that in the run up to Christmas, and it's something to do to keep the kids entertained while they're waiting for the arrival of Santa Claus. So the 25th of December, and this is where your genealogy comes into Christmas. So Scotland did not have the 25th of December, it was not a public holiday until 1958. So people went to work on Christmas Day. And my parents quite often talk, they were born in the 40s, and they talk about remembering their own parents going out to work on Christmas Day. My grandfather worked on in a big estate as a gamekeeper. He was out working. My other grandfather worked in a quarry. Again, they were working on Christmas Day. It was not a holiday. And why was this? So in 1560, there was the Protestant Reformation in Scotland, led by John Knox, and they were kind of hardline and they took a big stand against all what they saw as religious excesses. And Christmas was seen as a Catholic feast day. They did not approve of people feasting and drinking and having a good time. No, absolutely not. So Christmas was then made illegal. So it was just a total ban on all feasting and celebrations around Christmas and drinking and not being religious and hardworking and the Protestant work ethic. And it also played into the fact it wasn't just that they disapproved of it as a Catholic festival. A lot of the European Christmas traditions are brought from much earlier, from the Romans, from the pagans, the winter solstice celebrations, and they didn't approve of that either. So Christmas was seen as something that was not to be celebrated. It was a somber religious day. It wasn't for having a good time. And after the Civil War in England, Christmas celebrations were made illegal. This was repealed fairly quickly in England and Wales. It was restored as a public holiday in 1834, and that's what led to the whole Victorian Christmas, Christmas Carol, Scrooge, Charles Dickens, all that kind of images of the traditional Victorian Christmas. And we didn't really have that in Scotland. And that's part of the reason why Hogmanay, the New Year, has always been a bigger deal in Scotland because Christmas was not celebrated. I'm not saying kids didn't get presents and people didn't have meals. They did. They were doing all that kind of stuff through the early part of the 20th century. It just wasn't a holiday. So your mum and dad would go off to work. And then when they came home from work in the afternoon, then you would do your presents and your meal. So it wasn't the kind of special day that we have now, which is kind of weird to think that that was really only a few decades ago. And there are a lot of people alive now who will remember that kind of Christmas. So what do we do on Christmas Day now? And I'm sure everybody can identify with this. We eat too much. The kids get hyped up and excited and get up really early in the morning and rip parcels apart and get really excited about what Santa's done. And then we all fall asleep on the sofa. So I think that's pretty much how most people around the globe now celebrate the 25th of December, and it's no different here. That's what we'll be doing on the 25th of December, and I'm sure that's what most of our relatives will be doing too. None of the shops are open. There's nobody goes to work. You might go out for a gentle stroll around the park, let the kids ride their new bikes if they've got new bikes, that kind of thing. But it's a very much at home celebrating with the family occasion. So that's the 25th of December. The 26th of December is also a public holiday in Scotland. And if Christmas falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's the following 2 days that are taken as a public holiday. So if Christmas is a Saturday and Boxing Day is a Sunday, we have the Monday, Tuesday of the following week as the holiday so we don't miss out. So what is Boxing Day? So there's a lot of dispute and scholars can't really agree on what the origins of that term mean. But they think it's to do with the boxes that were collected, the money boxes, which people would give gifts and donations to throughout the year and throughout Advent. And then on the 26th, the day after Christmas, that was the day on which those boxes of money would be distributed around the poor of the parish. There's also another story that Boxing Day was the day when people that were landed in big houses that were in service, maids and parlour maids and dairy maids and grooms and all that kind of stuff, they would have the day off and they would be given a box of treats to take home to their parents, to their families on Boxing Day to have their Christmas. What's true or not, I'm not quite sure. That's two explanations of the term. In other parts of the world, it's known as St. Stephen's Day because it's the Saint Stephen who has his Saint's Day on the 26th of December. But again, Boxing Day, there's a lot of football on the television, sporting fixtures. Traditionally, that's when the sales in the shops started post-Christmas. But again, it's mainly a day that people see the friends and family, sit around, eat the leftover turkey, eat the chocolate, make turkey sandwiches, turkey curry, that kind of thing. So that's what we do on the 26th of December. And after that, you've got the period, the 27th, 28th. Most people will just go back to work. Schools will be still be off, but shops will be open. The world is getting kind of back to normal, that period between Christmas and New Year. So that's all building up to the 31st of December. And as you'll probably all know, in Scotland, we call that Hogmanay. And nobody really knows where the word Hogmanay comes from. There's lots of theories online. It's from old German words, old Gaelic words. They don't really know. There's no reason, but it's what we call New Year's Eve. It's also known as Old Year's Night, and the explanation for that is quite simple because you've got Old Year's Night and then you've got New Year's Day and then afterwards. So that's the last night of the old year. And in Scotland, as I explained, because Christmas was never such a big deal, Hogmanay is massive and always has been. Most shops will close early on the 31st of December around 4 o'clock. So people can come home and have parties. And this is much more a time where you go out with your friends, you see people that you're not necessarily related to, whereas Christmas is more of a family time. And what do we do on New Year's Eve? Well, there's a lot of drink involved. If you're in Edinburgh, there's a party, there's fireworks, there's music. And then at 12 o'clock, just before 12 o'clock, you'll have the ringing of the bells. And we have first footing. This is a custom which is particularly Scottish. And it's all about bringing you luck for the new year. So what will happen is if you're at a house party, the youngest, most attractive, tallest young man, traditionally it had to be somebody tall, dark, and handsome, will be thrown out of the house about 5 to 12, so that he could be the first person over the doorstep. It's all about who is the first person into your house in that new year. And traditionally, your first foot brought four things with them. They bought a lump of coal so that your house would always be warm during the year to come. They would bring some money to show that you would have enough money to live on in the year to come. They would bring some whiskey because it's Scotland, why not? And they would bring black bun. And black bun is food. It's kind of like a Christmas cake. So it's a heavy fruit cake, but it's encased in short crust pastry. So it's more like a pie with a sweet filling. And it's got lots of pepper in it. And it's one of those traditionally Scottish things that people used to eat a lot in the past. They don't really eat anymore. Shortbread's maybe more the kind of thing. So your first fruit comes in, they're welcomed into the house. Everybody has a drink of whiskey and a bit of black bun, and that's your luck is set for the rest of the year. Your house is going to be warm, you're going to have plenty to eat and drink, and you're going to have plenty of money. So that's Hogmanay. And everybody stays up late, has far too much to drink, and then sleeps late on in the morning on the 1st of January. So the 1st of January is New Year's Day. And everything's closed. It's a public holiday. We also have the 2nd of January as a public holiday in Scotland, and I think that's in recognition of the fact that New Year was always such a big deal compared with Christmas in Scotland. And again, it's more of a quiet day. Everything's closed, and people recover quietly at home from the excesses of the night before. And the traditional meal to have on New Year's Day is a steak pie. No idea why, but it's steak, it's pastry, mashed potatoes, peas, vegetables, that kind of thing. Some people will have something a bit fancier. Some people might have pheasant or another leftover turkey or whatever they have for Christmas. But it is another special meal, with family and friends on home on New Year's Day. And then you have the 2nd of January where everything's closed. There's usually football matches on New Year's Day as well. And then after that, things gradually start to get back to normal. The 3rd of January, everybody's back to work. We don't really follow the Epiphany, the keeping your decorations up to the 6th of January, which some people do. And yeah, so that's how we celebrate the festive season, Christmas and New Year in Scotland. And I'd be really interested to hear from anybody about anything that you find is the same or different in your country. So we'll have a chat after we finish the recording. So I'll just do that now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining in. This was the November session for the Scottish Records at the International Institute of Genealogical Studies. You can find us online at www.genealogicalstudies.com. And thanks very much for listening.